we're expected not to show that vulnerability, right? We're expected to be strong because that's
all the time
how we were raised, right? And that's where that whole silent depression, or what do they call it? High functioning depression happens, where you're able to just get it done and make it work and power through. So for me, I find moments in the morning when everyone is gone. Working out has been a great stress reliever for me.
That's right.
So I do my workouts in the morning, where I do my circuit, and then I may go to the gym and get that taken care of. And I'll be honest with you, working remotely from home, most of the day I'm home by myself all day, so I get a chance to really just kind of, relax a little bit and take a load off, right? So for me, over the last couple of years, it's been a little easier to do that simply because I started working out more. Then working from home allows me to kind of have some self time,
That's
right, to myself, and really think about things around me, but also think about, hey, what do I want to plan for, and what do I want to do in the future? And obviously, I'm always looking for something to do, entrepreneurship wise, all of that. So I'm still excited about that.
You're still hungry. You still
I still have the fire to just
go.
Do whatever and go.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing something, then I feel like I'm missing something, right? So I have to stay busy, So
What's the latest business venture?
Real estate is still my latest business venture. I know these guys know that I've been heavily into real estate. The Airbnb, 2 Airbnb properties are doing well. Still have some long-term real estate properties that we also own. But what I really want to do is, we're in the perfect place. I was just talking to April about that. I really want to open up an event space in the Charleston area. We don't know if that's going to happen, because Charleston is extremely expensive.
Yes, it is.
But April with the Gala has the perfect business model, right? And talking with her and have been knowing her for 20 plus years as a really good friend. I'm very interested in that, but my current business venture right now is still heavily into real estate at this moment in time.
Sammy, you're doing a lot, man.
He got a lot.
So leadership.
Yeah.
We've sprinkled it in a little bit.
Let's talk about it.
I know of some of when I think of leadership, when I think of friends that I would call great leaders, you're probably the first person that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Talk about just what you're doing now in terms of leadership, not just paid, but volunteer.
Yeah.
We talked about the frat a little bit, but what are the different leadership ventures you've got going on?
Yeah, so, I think we talked a little bit about entrepreneurship. So, have my own business there from an entrepreneurship perspective as far as real estate. But I'm a associate director of operations at Verizon. So what that means is my organization just leads my organization brings all the new employees into what we call our inside sales channel of the business, right? We hire them in, we train them, we get them ready for production, all that good stuff. And I lead a team of people that sits, kind of all over the country. I'm currently also the chapter president for Phi Beta Sigma down in Charleston, the Beta Mu Sigma chapter. Shout out to Beta Mu Sigma down in Charleston.
Champions of the basketball game.
Yeah, champions of the Greek basketball game that recently happened a couple months ago. So I know there's another chapter out there that's still a little salty about that, but it's all good. We won, right? We're the champs. We have the trophy. But I'm
president.
Yeah, so chapter president of that chapter. So from a leadership perspective.
Military as well. We talked about
military. Was an NCO in the military. Led my squad down. Last leadership position in the military was in Iraq, where I led my squad in Iraq. So I got And in general, just in total, probably close to, close to 30 years in leadership. And the military, the fraternity, entrepreneurship, and in corporate America. And, that's kind of where I've hung my hat, right? But my leadership style is more about the people, because I always think about putting people first. Servant leadership, right? I have a saying that I use all the time in Verizon. It's because businesses are about results. You know that. Executive in corporate America, you know that, right? And I always use the phrase, results matter, but people matter even more.
That's right.
Because people have to get you the results. And that's how I lead, with that servant leadership mentality. And I always tell people, if you lead with the servant leadership mentality, you can get people to do almost anything. And the one thing you need to make sure that you do is make sure your emotional intelligence is at an all-time high. Because with any great leader, 80% of what they need in order to be a great leader comes through emotional intelligence. It's where it comes from. And if you wanna learn a little bit more about that, there's a great book out there called Emotional Intelligence 2.0 that you can take the test that will tell you where you are on that spectrum as it relates to emotional intelligence, and it'll walk you through how to get there, give you examples. But 80% of what you need to be a great leader is within that emotional intelligence realm.
Did you want to get into leadership, or did you find yourself? I know with the frat, they probably asked you to be president, but do you find yourself wanting to do that, or is it just like a natural?
I think it became a natural transition for me, right? There are some things I had to work on self-development wise to make sure I show up the way I need to show up. But it was more of a natural transition. It's not something that I go out there and say, I beat my chest saying, hey, I want to be a leader. I want to lead folks. But naturally, people look at you and say, hey, I think you would be great at this or doing this. So you're like, okay, I can see myself. And as people continue to give you that feedback, your confidence start to grow. And then you start to figure out ways to move down that path. And I'm sure both of you know about going down a path that you didn't naturally think you were going to go down.
Right.
And
seminary.
Like recently, right? I mean, it's almost like you're fighting against something that you're not going to win that battle.
No.
Right?
Yeah. If it's in you.
If it's there, hey, you gotta submit to it. And I'm not saying that's where I'm at, but that's kind of how I felt. So once I realized that may be the path that I'm heading down as far as leading people, whatever that is, then you have to figure out ways to develop yourself. Like you got to sharpen your presentation skills, right? You got to sharpen your people skills. You got to figure out where you are on the emotional intelligence scale, right? And how do you continue to be a student of the business, but be a constant learner? Because when you stop learning, you stop growing.
You cap yourself.
Yeah, you cap yourself.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So when you say that people see it in you, like, man, you probably be good at this, be good at that. What characteristic trait do you believe they see in you first to think that you'd be good there? And the reason I ask that is because one trait that I've seen with people, like, man, they don't come in like thinking they want to be a leader, but you see consistency. Yeah. It's like, I see you here all the time.
Right.
You might be a good leader because you can set the tone because you're always here. Right. Like, what's something you think they've seen?
You nailed it, right? So I'll give you the prime example. Becoming a chapter president recently. I was at every single event we had, right? I wasn't just present, right? I wasn't just sitting at the table. I was involved in the conversation,
Yes.
right? People talk a lot about having a seat at the table. Having a seat at the table is good, but are you involved in the conversation? Right? You can't just come to the table, sit there, right? You got to be involved in the conversation. So anything we did, I didn't just show up and sit at the table, literally or figuratively. I was involved in the conversation. And I never said, actually, I always said the opposite. I said, listen, I don't want to be the chapter president. let's be clear, right? Yeah. And even my frat brothers in the chapter, even if they see this, they'll know he said that, right? That's not my aim. But naturally, just showing up, being visible, doing the work gets you there. From a corporate American perspective, I would just say the ability to connect with people. Mm-hmm. When you have the ability to connect with people and get them to understand that they have more in the tank than they believe they have, and you get them to believe beyond that, allows people to look at you as someone that they want to follow, right? Mm-hmm. You're getting more out of me than I thought I could get out of myself.
Yeah, productivity.
Yeah, right? And then just obviously, you gotta make people understand that, hey, you care about them. You care about their success. And that's the one thing that I've always done as a leader within the business, is I cared about people's success. And transparently speaking, when I first became a leader in the business, I was leading the wrong way. I was leading through fear and authority. Mm-hmm. I wasn't leading through caring for people.
And influence.
Mm-hmm. Right? The most powerful thing you can do as a leader is influence people. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was all about my first couple of years in leadership. Okay, I'm a leader. I'm this, I'm that. You're going to do this because of my title. Yeah. And a lot of times, that is the worst way to lead people.
That's the, so you read a lot of John Maxwell.
Yes.
360 leader.
Yes. Yeah.
He talks about someone who has the title, but he's like, the title isn't leadership.
No.
Because you can have the highest title, but if nobody respects you, they're not going to follow you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, but you can be a coworker instead of being a higher up. And I can influence you, like you said, I can make you believe you got more in the tank than you thought you had.
Yes.
And you're a leader even though you don't have a title and they don't report to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Right.
You brought up John C. Maxwell, man. That's great. I was going to mention that. So, like I said, I think about great leaders. You come to mind. I remember coming to you some years ago asking, hey, you got a book that you would recommend? And you suggested John C. Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Yeah.
And so I finally picked it up this past year because I was in this job and it was global leadership.
Yeah.
And it was a great book, man. It was an incredible book. And the different laws. So is he one that you would recommend, John C. Maxwell? So just thinking about resources you would recommend for people. What would have been good books for you?
Wow. John C. Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Another one is what I got to remember the author's name, but What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Who Moved My Cheese?
Classic.
Yeah, that's a classic book there. 7 Habits of Highly Effective Leadership. Man, I could, if I had them in my head, I could keep them going.
Man. That's pretty good.
But listen, man, there's some really good leadership books out there that certainly will get your mind going. Oh, I mentioned the one earlier, right? Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Get that book. If you don't have that book, get that book and take the test. Because where you thought you were on the emotional intelligence scale, that book will humble you down to where you truly are. But what it also does is it helps you figure out how to improve your emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. So anytime I get a new team with a team of new leaders, which I just got a team of new leaders within the last couple of weeks, within a few weeks, I send them all that book. Like I purchase it, go on Amazon, send it to them and say, hey, start reading this book. We're going to do like a book club on this. And we spend 6-7 weeks going through. It's a real easy read. It's a small book. We spend 6-7 weeks talking about different parts of the book and their experience and how they're going to utilize certain resources from the book. But Emotional Intelligence 2.0, man, that's one of the best books I've had.
Okay. So you invest in them before you ask them to do anything for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.